Hello and welcome to the United Stand. Who should be the top 5 Paul Pogba players to play with Paul Pogba next season? Didn't get that out as well as I wanted to because we don't want to sign 5. We're going to sign 1. But what we're going to go through are the top 5 players voted for by you who we believe are the best partner for Paul Pogba next season. Now, I'm not one of those who've really got on about Paul Pogba this season. I don't think he's had a bad season. I don't think he's had a great season. But I think he will be a great Manchester United player. And I think he has suffered this season from not really having the freedom that we've seen. I mean, I remember I've seen Pogba play 3 or 4 times this season. I remember his debut against Southampton way back in August. And a couple of other games where he's really been given that freedom as a sort of, not quite a box-to-box, a little bit more attacking like he was at Juventus. But to be able to do that, he needs the rigid play of a Carrick who's going to sit, or somebody who can comes in, because Herrera hasn't got that physicality or positional sense that a Carrick has to allow Pogba to express himself. So Mourinho will have seen that. He's a genius, and I'm sure that he will have seen the things that we've seen, and he wants to bring in a certain type of player. We've got our top 5 player that we believe, voted for by you, are the best 5 to play with Paul Pogba this season. As you can see in the top right hand corner, you're going to get pictures with the names because you may not know who they are. We're not signing Kante, so let's get realistic for a start. Blaise Matuidi, currently at PSG. He is 29 years of age and he will be 30, I believe, this month. Well, next month, it's April, he's going to be 30. 29, 30, people would be thinking, no. However, you know I'm a very, very big fan. I don't know why I'm pointing a pencil. It is a pencil. It's not a Smurf knob. If we sign Matuidi, and I've been quite a fan of this for a long time, because if you don't know much about Matuidi, you haven't seen him much for PSG or France, he's actually very much a Jean Tigana of the mid-80s, if you can remember him, a Makaleli, and a bit of a Kante, but he's a better player going forward than Kante. He's probably not, Kante's 2 players in 1, but he is that sort of midfielder, dynamic, tenacious, gets absolutely everywhere, brilliant engine, box to box, which Kante isn't, but gets into the tackle. So he's a good player in that sense. I believe he's about 6 foot. But he gets forward a lot. He makes good runs. He makes positions and space for people. So not only I think he could play next to Pogba in a midfield too and do the slightly withdrawn role, but also when we're on the attack, he can make runs for Pogba and create space for him. So I think he would be perfect in many ways. And I'm a bit sad that he's sort of gone off the radar a bit, and he is actually at number 5, because I think he'd complement Pogba perfectly, because he's very tenacious, like I say, but he's got a great engine. But also, being 30 in April, that would be a big turn off for a lot of people. However, the turn on for me is the fact that he is 30, and we've got a certain young lad in Fosu-Mensah who has got no one like this to learn from. So if you brought Matuidi in for a couple of years and you had Fosu-Mensah with him, it's like, well, even if Matuidi at 30 can't play every week, you sort of give Fosu-Mensah a little go, but he gets to learn off somebody who isn't going to be here for the next decade. So Fosu-Mensah would step up to it in his early 20s when Matuidi gives in. Matuidi's not actually 6 foot, he's 5'10". I've just read that in the comments, but I'm a big fan of his. I really do think he would work well at Manchester United. And the big thing with Matuidi that I don't think a lot of people have realised, out of everybody we are targeting, very similar to Alexis Sanchez and Messi and a lot of other people at the moment, his contract is up in 2018, which means PSG can want what they like, but we could probably get him for about £15 million, maybe £20 million, which is a bargain for a player who's only just turning 30 and only has a year left on his contract. And also, just to add it in there, because nobody's been talking about Matuidi for a long time, and I really do like him. He is a client of Mini Raiola as well, so don't give up on him. Don't think, oh, it's not glamorous enough. I think it ticks a hell of a lot of the boxes, and actually, in relation to some of the players we're going to talk about in a minute, he is ready-made. He's not young, he's experienced, he is tenacious, he is a bit like a Kante, but he can get forward as well. He'd be a perfect complement for Pogba, and also, moving away from Pogba, he'd be a great developer for Fosu-Mensah to have somebody to learn from. So, big fan of his. Very much like him, and I'm really pleased that a lot of people mentioned him. Remember to drop a like on the video if you like our content, and please get sharing. Okay, number 4, Fosu-Mensah. What a surprise. Fosu-Mensah's in there. Not a signing, but definitely deserves to be in there as a top 5 to play alongside Pogba. If you know anything about Fosu-Mensah, and if you don't know a lot about Fosu-Mensah, he really does tick the boxes everywhere you look at him. He is fast, he is powerful, he is tenacious, he is quite good at getting forward and driving forward, because we've seen him do that from right back. To be honest, he reminds me of a younger Matuidi who can be a better than Matuidi sort of player, because yes, he's got that defensive ability and strength and power and a great engine, but he can drive forward and make space for other players as well, which is a great talent to have as a midfielder. We don't necessarily want that Kante who's just going to sit there and do nothing else other than break up the play. As Manchester United, you want somebody who can break up the play and be energetic, but also can get forward as well, especially if you want to go to a midfield too, which we have done with some success this season. Now, the things that people might not realise about Fosu-Mensah, obviously his value and his contract really doesn't matter because he's already currently at Manchester United, but for those who are getting a bit concerned about whether Fosu-Mensah might leave, his contract isn't up until 2020, so we're comfortable there. It's not like we've got a Pogba again where he can just go. However, a couple of things about Fosu-Mensah you might not have realised that I think again are a real positive. One, he is 6 foot. He is 6 foot, which is fantastic because he really can get around the park. He really is energetic and strong. But to be 6 foot as well, it just gives you something else to his game. And also, he's only just 19. He's just turned 19, I think in January, which, is amazing. A lot of people, myself included, have said Fosu-Mensah's not played enough games this year. Well, remember that about this time last year, he played against Spurs and was our man of the match away from home. He was only just 18 then. He was only just 18 and he was man of the match because he just turned 18 in the previous January. So we as much as I'm disappointed and I think he's regressed this season, he is only just 19 and has got a massive future if Mourinho uses him. And it's right that he's thrown in there as number 4 because I do think he's a very, very interesting option for Manchester United and somebody that we already have. But whether he's ready to go in there and when will he ever be ready, and that's why I think a Matuidi could work quite well in relation to Fosu-Mensah. Number 3, do you know much about him? Frank Kessie. Now, what I would say about Kessie is I like him a lot. I like him a lot. I do like Frank Kessie a lot. In fact, I've been on about him probably about 2 or 3 months now, and he ticks probably every single box of the sort of player we should go for, bar a couple of negatives. I'll go with the negatives first. First of all, Kessie is basically Fosu-Mensah, but he's playing week in, week out for Atalanta and he's doing very well in Serie A. But they are virtually the same age. I think Kessie is a year older. In fact, he just turned 20 in December, so he virtually is just a year older than Fosu-Mensah. So you start to think, well, why are we buying Kessie when we've already got Fosu-Mensah? And again, they're 6 foot. He's 6 foot, same height as Fosu-Mensah. So I like Kessie as opposed to the lad who's coming at number 2. I would prefer to sign Kessie. The problem is he plays for Ivory Coast, which is a positive because he's come out with comments during the African Nations Cup saying how much he loves Manchester United. Chelsea are interested in him as well. He said Chelsea are a big club, but his heart would be with Manchester United. Eric Bailly, Agent Bailly, probably doing a little bit there. Of course, the downside of the flip side of the coin is if we do sign him, it's another player that's going to disappear in January to the African Nations Cup. Do you want that? So that's a slight negative. And the other negative, like I say, is he's very similar in age, size, and I think ability to Fosu-Mensah. There are differences, and that, you can flip that as a positive as well because Fosu-Mensah is going to be a star, so Kessie's probably going to be a star as well. So why not have both of them? But can we fit both of them in there, and does that mean that Fosu-Mensah is not going to get a chance? I don't know. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not opposed with Fosu-Mensah going on loan next year. I just don't want him sat in the team, training with the first team, not playing games. If he goes on loan to a Premier League team next year, then that could be great for Fosu-Mensah. He just needs to play more games. But in relation to Kessie, contracted till 2021. So out of everyone we're talking, he's on the longer term contract. So he probably would cost quite a lot of money, probably 30 to 40 million pounds, which is a lot of money for that player. Somebody in the live comments there just saying that there's a big difference between Serie A and the Premier League. There is, but if you compare Kessie to Fosu-Mensah, there's a big difference between playing first team football and just training with the first team, which is what Fosu-Mensah's done. I like Kessie, I do like him. I would not be disappointed if we sign him. Personally, out of everybody we're talking at the moment, apart from Matuidi, he would be my pick to play alongside Pogba, because he is box to box, he is tenacious, he really drives into the tackle. He's probably not as defensive as Matuidi, but he can play. But he is defensive, but he's not as defensive. But he's got more about his game going forward, and he's better on the ball, which, you know, it's a decent balance. So I like Kessie a lot, I really do. I'd like us to sign him. My only concerns would be the African Nations Cup, and also he's very similar to Fosu-Mensah in age, and I just would worry what that means for Fosu-Mensah. But maybe that's just, you know, being a bit over the top. He's a good option. I like him. I'm glad he's in at number 3. In at number 2, Bakayoko from Monaco. Now, I did say a couple of months ago that I really, really, really like Bakayoko, and I think he'd be a good player for Manchester United. I'd seen him probably a handful of times this season. I've probably seen him a handful of times in the last month and a half. So I've doubled my viewing of Bakayoko this season, and there is a couple of concerns I have about him, but a lot of you like Bakayoko, and it would be certainly unfair to say I don't want us to sign Bakayoko based on the last 5 games I've seen him, when in fairness he has been coming back from an injury. The one thing about Bakayoko I would say is he looks massive. He looks massive. He reminds me in physique and body movement and movement on the ball of Yaya Toure, which isn't a bad thing. However, he is 6 foot and a little bit, 6 foot and a half, not 6'1". He's between 6 foot and 6'1", so 6 foot and a half. Like I say, Fosu-Mensah's 6 foot, Kessie's 6 foot, so they're around the same height. So that height thing can be deceptive because they're much the same age, same height. He's 23 in August, so he's that little bit older. He's contracted till 2019, so not quite going to be 30 to 40 million. I think would get us him. I prefer Kessie and I prefer Fosu-Mensah to Bakayoko at this moment in time. I'm not saying I'd be disappointed if we signed Bakayoko, although I am disappointed in his comment a week ago where he said, if Manchester United get in the Champions League, I'll sign for them. There's no if with Manchester United. We've signed good players without the Champions League. You should want to come to us. But my big concern about Bakayoko that I have seen in the last few games, and I don't know whether that will improve, is the fact that he's slower. He's slower than Fosu-Mensah, he's slower than Matuidi, he's slower than Kessie. And I think when you look at a Kante and you look at a Pogba, and we're talking about somebody to play alongside Pogba here, you need somebody with a bit of pace, because Pogba's deceptively fast, but in short spaces he's quite slow because he's a bit like Lukaku. It takes him a few yards to get going, and when he's in his stride he's quick. But when you're a defensive midfielder or a box-to-box midfielder and your job is to supplement Pogba and really win the ball back, you can't afford to be slow. You've got to be biting into the tackle, tenacious, agile and quick in short spaces. Bakayoko isn't. Kessie, Matuidi and Fosu-Mensah are. So that's my concern about Bakayoko. So if you're asking me, would I be disappointed if we signed Bakayoko? No, I wouldn't. I think we need somebody in that position. But would I prefer Matuidi, Fosu-Mensah or Kessie? Then yes, I would. But he was your number 2. Bakayoko. I'm going to come to your number 1 now. I mean, I personally wouldn't have had them in this choice. I'll give you my choices of the top 5 in a minute. But you might be surprised who's coming in at number 1. Youri Tielemans. Now, it's probably something to do with the fact that we're playing Anderlecht in a couple of weeks, and I'm really excited to see him. If you play FIFA, you'll know that he's one of them players the last couple of years that when you sign him, he gets really good. If you've been following the United stand and read rumours, you'll know that Draughty Devils mentioned him a lot. King K says Tielemans would fit in currently, which he would. And Marco says it's easier to teach technique than speed. Yes, and I really like that comment, Marco, because Bakayoko, as good as he is, if he's not got that tenacity and speed in the tight gaps like a Kante, we are going to get run through the middle. I mean, you think about our midfield when we played against City at home, and I know it was only 2-1 and we should have had a penalty, but watching that game in the first half, City could have been 4 or 5 up. They absolutely were running our midfield wild because they've got small, tenacious players moving the ball quick, and we had Fellaini and Rooney in there, and you just get moved around. And I think Bakayoko and Pogba, whilst they're big and physical, and they'd be good set pieces and everything like that, when the ball's moving around, you need that sort of tenacity, and I think that's where it goes wrong for me. Now, Tielemans is interesting. We're going to get to see him for Anderlecht. He's probably got one of the best long shots in world football at the moment. He scores a lot of goals, and I can't wait to see him. I think we'll beat Anderlecht, but I'm not bothered if he has a good couple of games, because the rumour is that Mourinho has been scouting him. He is interested in him, and obviously we're going to get 2 great opportunities to scout him, woo him with what it's like at Old Trafford. His head could get turned. We could sign him. He's contracted till 2020, but he plays for Anderlecht, so they're not going to ask for £50 million because they're a Belgian club, and they'd get a hard on for 20 million. So we could get him if we wanted to get him. My my downer on Tielemans is quite simply this. He's nearly 5'10". He's 20 in May, so he's currently 19. So he ticks all the boxes. But he's not Matuidi. He's not Kessie, and he's not Fosu-Mensah. Not just in name and looks, but in the way he plays. I actually think Tielemans is a better player. He's almost, if Pogba's injured or suspended, play Tielemans. I don't think you can play the two together because they are better going forward than they are as defenders. You could... I don't know whether we'll do this deal because we've got Paul Pogba, not because we want him to play with Paul Pogba, because you don't have that defensive discipline with Tielemans that you have with the other three I've mentioned. I'd love us to be signing him, and at the age he is, I'd love him to be coming to Manchester United, and there will be games for him to play. And I certainly think when Mourinho this season has come out and said, when Pogba's not fit or injured, Fellaini's my replacement. Well, that's bad news. I mean, whether you like Fellaini or not, he shouldn't be the replacement for Pogba. So bringing Tielemans in as that sort of backup for Pogba, you know, let them fight it out. He can find his way into the team, but he's not the supplement for Pogba I believe that we need, which is the defensive midfielder type of a Kante, a Kessie, a Matuidi, a Fosu-Mensah, or even a Bakayoko. Tielemans is more attacking, and he's a fantastic talent, and I think he could be one of the best in world football in the next 3 or 4 years. So I'd love us to sign him, but I don't think he is the one to play alongside Pogba, which is ultimately what this video is. So your top 5 was Matuidi at 5, Fosu-Mensah at 4, Kessie at 3, Bakayoko at 2, and Tielemans at number 1. I'm happy with that 5. I know a lot of people are saying Fabinho, Weigl, Kroos, and whatever. There are other players, I accept that, but I'm happy with this top 5. I think it's a very, very good top 5. I'd be happy if we got one of them, or we used Fosu-Mensah, who was one of the 5. But my top 5 would be this. It would be, as a supplement to play alongside Pogba, I would have Tielemans at 5, Bakayoko at 4, Fosu-Mensah at 3, Kessie at 2, Matuidi at 1. If we're talking about just who I want to sign, then I would put Bakayoko at 5, I would put Tielemans at 4 and move him up a space. But they're all really good signings. I really like them all. And thanks for everybody who got involved with that. And I think it is interesting. I think we do need that sort of player to play alongside him. And a lot of you are saying in the live comments, what about Herrera? But I don't... Do you believe that Herrera and Pogba are a midfield two that can win as a Premier League? I think Herrera is very, very important to Manchester United. I think he'll play 30 or 40 games for United next season. But I think we do need that player with tenacity and a great engine to supplement Pogba next year. Much like Kante at Chelsea, much like Wanyama at Spurs, we need that sort of player who just runs and runs and runs. And the great thing is we've already got Fosu-Mensah. I just think we need somebody to come in and sort of teach him the role and be alongside him. And if you're looking for someone to come in and teach him the role, well, Tielemans and Kessie are the same age, so they're not going to do it. Bakayoko could do, or are you going to go for Matuidi, who we're not really linked with, but he'd be very easy to sign. Like I say, Mini Riola's agent is his agent. He's coming up for 30. And he's out of contract next summer. Not this summer, next summer. So we'd get him for a really good price. And I think for a couple of years, he's absolutely perfect. So that's my thoughts on it. A quicker video tonight because we've got a match tomorrow against West Brom. We'll be live from 2 o'clock with the team news. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff. So please drop a like on the video. Get commenting below. I appreciate there will be other players out there. You may even have other systems out there. So do get commenting below and give us your thoughts on that. Like the video. Subscribe to the United Stand if you're new. Join us for the watch along at 2 o'clock tomorrow. But a nice little bonus for you. Manchester United versus West Brom tactics preview live. I'm going to end this video. I'm going to go over to the Mark Goldbridge channel. If you don't know where that is, you can either type it into the search engine or you can go to the link in the video description. The video won't be there yet. It will go up probably in about 3 minutes because I can't because it's through my PS4. I can't set up a video until it goes live, but it will go live in about 2 or 3 minutes. And I'm going to be showing you how I would beat West Brom and tactically how I think Manchester United should go about it. So we're talking through, there'll be a live comments. Join us for that. It's on the Mark Goldbridge channel. But thanks tonight. Really good idea about this video tonight. Loved it. It's a shame really that it got the Friday night slot because I think it deserved a better slot. But I think it's been a great video. I've really enjoyed talking about it and talking through the options. I'll see you on the Mark Goldbridge channel in a couple of minutes if you are going to join us. If we're not live, just jump over there and watch the tactics preview. I know a lot of you enjoy that. And thanks everyone for watching. Please do drop a like and I'll see you over on my channel in a moment.